you're starting from scratch and starting from ground zero again to try to build those points to see where you finish up.
You guys know better than me, but a guy who starts to really flourish from year one, takes that leap up, getting acclimated.
The emphasis is to know that we are together in it.
Welcome back to our Union season preview series. I'm Dave Leno. I'm pleased to be joined by Union legends and my dear friends, Sebastien Le Toux and Sheanon Williams. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, it's fun, Can't wait for the season to start.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Good to be in the studio.
Just like our little preseason right here on these preview shows. But echo what you both just said there. It's great to be back with you. Really looking forward to an exciting, jubilant 2026. And I first want to start with, for those that might not be aware, just other than the games and the long practices and training sessions, what's it like for preseason from the player's perspective in your MLS days?
For us, it was a lot in Florida time with Sheanon. Like for the guys, this year and the year before, they went to Spain. So it's a bit different, to go to a different country. I feel it's where you start, bonding, with your teammates, finding, kind of seeing them back after the preseason, which, it's always a longer preseason in America, but everybody, has new success. Some guys got married, some guys, went to different, place back where they are from and come back. So it's kind of like nice time to get everybody back together and kind of be all together for, a week, 10 days, whatever it is, to just focus on the team and kind of try to get a great spirit for the season to come.
It's definitely a grind. I think it's an exciting time. It's the start of a new season where everybody's going to start at a level playing field and see how far you can get. And especially coming off of last year for this team, I think they've got to be excited about where they can take things, how much they've grown and how much they still have to grow so that they can get done what they want to accomplish, which is MLS Cups, which is trophies and that stuff.
How much do you use that fuel to the fire of what last year was, getting a second shield, the massive unbeaten streak, dominant at home, 8 road wins, scored a ton of goals, came back in games very late, scored a lot of early goals, and also there was a ton of change. I remember back to a game that maybe people forget, like the St. Louis game, where I believe there were 9 or 10 changes due to international duty for a lot of our players. Guys came in and we pulled it out with a 1-0 home win. So again, how does the team go? Seb, I'll start with you. From last year and all the success and kind of what Sheanon just said, to add that into having that same type of momentum into 2026 to repeat the success moving forward with a lot of new faces.
Yeah, it's going to be not easy because, last year, I don't think there was any expectation from this team. New coach, lots of new player, but like this year, there's still some changes, and we're going to talk about it, in a roster. But when you have all that success, it's so hard to confirm because now every other team are going to look for you. You're not going to be like the surprise, and nobody was thinking that you can play the way they played. So it's kind of like very good because you are confident, I think, for all this group to know what they can do together and the progress I think they can still make as a group. Plus now the new addition, to this team. And after it's like the second part is kind of like you cannot just say, hey, it's going to be, like last year, we're going to, surprise everybody again because you need to find the motivation. And the good thing is, I think with the change we saw in this team, like from last year to this year, it brings some new blood into the team and people who are motivated to, impact the Union, squad this season, and some young guys who did an amazing, season last year. Now they need to confirm. So a little bit of pressure as well, but I think it's a good pressure for this group to try to be again, successful this season. But I think with a different mindset because everybody in the league are going to look at the Philadelphia Union much differently this season.
How tough is that, Sheanon, going from year one to year two from the coaching staff perspective, where you both hit on this, kind of the book's out on the Union on how they played last year, and I'm sure there's a lot of variation of what the club is doing right now in preseason, but how challenging is that for a staff where a lot of people have the scout on what the Union did in year one under Bradley and his staff?
Yeah, I think as a staff you have to continue to grow. I think that's going to be important for this group. I think to have the buy-in from all the players after what they were able to accomplish last year. I know some of those players have moved on, but you're starting from scratch and starting from ground zero again to try to build those points to see where you finish up at the end of the season. I think last year was an amazing year. This year comes with more expectations, like Seba talked about, and I think with that comes that added pressure. I think the things that you take from year to year is the experience. So whether you played couple games, whether you were a full-time starter. I think that's the stuff that you take from year to year. You take those experiences. You take how to navigate through a long season, the ups and downs when summertime comes and that heat comes, how to navigate that. I think those are the things that you take from year to year and try to improve on and get better at.
See this a lot in other sports when teams in the college ranks go every 4 years. A college program, for example, can go on an international trip, and how well that does for the team, both on and off the court or field. And you see that with the Philadelphia Union, but not in a 4-year span. They're back-to-back trips to Spain. How well does that do for a club, both on and off the field, for our Union?
For me, it's very important, and you can see it's kind of like the trademark as well for Brady Carnell and his staff. It's all about being a group. It's not just we talked about it all last year. 11 players. You want to make sure that everybody buys in, from the player who might not play any minute but are here every day at practice to push the starter, to the guy who play every game but still act as a leader, and when the thing maybe doesn't go the way for the team, they stay positive and they kind of try to get a result together. So those trips, when you go to a different country, I know like the emphasis is to know that we are together in it. It's like you're almost 10 days without maybe talking too much to your family or seeing the outside world. In soccer, they were in Marbella. There's not much to do around, but it's a really important time to really feel what this group is going to give to each other, and know who is going to step as a leader this season, who are the guys who can be the surprise player who might not play a lot of minutes last year but might be more impactful this season. So you have all of those little things who kind of come up into preseason, and it's kind of fun to watch, but you need to have this team spirit. We feel last year every game that even if stuff was not going their way, they were sticking together and getting a result at the end.
You both traveled around the world in your playing careers. Sheanon, do you like the experience overseas, and what does that do for you, taking back to your playing days?
Absolutely. I think Seba would attest this as well. It's a trip with some of your closest friends. I think there's such strong bonds within the team, and that's within every team. And some of these guys grew up going through the academy system, and now you get to spend 15 days on the road with those guys. So I think it's a huge time to get together as a group and understand that you're here for a common goal. And I think that only grows stronger as you get on the road, as you're in hotel rooms, as you're confined more to the hotel during a preseason time.
Sheanon, what's the competition like for the players in preseason? Because your teammates, your friends, but I'm always curious about this as a play-by-play guy. It's like you're also battling for a starting position. Now, there might be a lot of rotation for the squad with Champions Cup play, right, and regular season play. We have a logjam of a schedule to start the year, beginning with this month. But what's that battle like between the team? And, of course, off the field, you're high-fiving and you're jubilant, but on the field, you're gladiators out there against each other battling for that starting 11.
Yeah, I think everybody has a different feeling about their preseason and where they are in their career, whether they think that they should be a starter, whether they're trying to get minutes from the team, whether they're a young player coming through the ranks. And I think that has a different feel for each person individually going into preseason. For a younger player, trying to gain the trust of teammates, trying to make sure that you belong and that you fit into this group. For the older guys, making sure that you're ready to go, that you're getting the body where it needs to be. I think every preseason is different for each player and where you're at mentally, physically, and emotionally. So I think that going into preseason, it's about getting yourself right and understanding that you have to conform into this team and grow this bond that helps take you through the season.
Yeah, it's not easy for a young player because you want to show, you want to prove. But the good thing I think with this team and Brady Carnell, it's you saw last year, if you are good, if you do the thing he asks you to do on the field, you will have some time on the field because he wants hard worker, on the field first, who work for the team. But like Sheanon said, we all come to a preseason as a different player. You have, of course, the team goal, which is the main focus, but then individually, like everybody has their own goal. We are going to have, some player who came last year, they were new to this league. Now they know, can they develop more now a different type of leadership for this team to allow to welcome all the new young player we have, coming from the Union 2, coming from the academy, but as well with a new signing. So it's kind of a good, mix we have, I think, with all our players. We still have a young team, but we have, leader like Andrew Bedore is coming back again this year, who kind of bring everybody together. It's very important to have a good balance between, the young and the old, and kind of get this little let's say, I would say hungriness, you have at each practice, because if I'm a young player and I see that, wow, if I play well at practice during preseason right away, you can already catch the eye, of the coaching staff, and they're like, okay, we can maybe have, this player come in if, we are not satisfied with maybe a starter who play more game, this year, because it's how a healthy, I think, group is. It's not just always playing the same 11, and when you are young and you really bust, your butt at practice, if you don't play, it's where can you lose, the motivation. But I feel, Bradley Carlin and his staff did a very good job to always making sure that if the guy does the right thing, he gets rewarded no matter what.
That shows how together this team is. You both are right on, and I think just from my personal belief, having a guy in Bedoya coming back for us 11th season, Blake as well in goal. Hopefully he's very healthy in 2026. You also have some of the partnership that I'm curious to see blossom even more so in Danley. Big year for him personally, with Haiti going back to the World Cup for the first time since '74, and that partnership with he and Lukic. We all agree how successful that was in 2025. Curious how that will prosper in 2026. Sheanon, how important is the leadership that Seba speaks of having guys like Bedoya, Blake, I'll throw in a Nate Harriel as well, and some of the other players in and around the staff, and some longtime staff members as well that have been with the club since you guys played here?
Yeah, it's huge. I think that those players are huge for Bradley Carnell to try and invoke his style of play and what he wants from the team. Those guys are guys that speak directly for the coaches when you have that leadership group. And you talk about somebody like Nate Harriel, he's growing into that leadership role as he's gotten this experience now and played in so many games and has now played for the national team and so on. So I think that those players are huge. I think they do a great job in helping players that are coming into the club navigate these seasons. I think it's similar to, college basketball, going to the NBA, and now all of a sudden you have 82 games. How do you navigate that? Who's there to help you through, the peaks and the valleys of those seasons? And I think those players gone through it so many times. And for somebody like Bedoya, not only here in MLS but also overseas, I think that that's just a resource for all the young players that are coming through the ranks to use. And hopefully they are utilizing those tools and those players that they have around them. I think that's only going to be more beneficial to them as they try to get their own career path started.
Let's touch on the twists and turns that you speak of there of the season, and the club's going to navigate CONCACAF Champions Cup play starting in Trinidad and Tobago against Defense Force FC on the 18th. Come back to the States on the road at D.C. on the 21st, host leg 2 at the end of the month, and then play New York City FC. And I personally can't wait for that rematch for the home opener on March 1st. Seba, starting with you, how does Bradley and the staff, or how do you think they're going to navigate this tough start to the season with all these games in a limited amount of time?
That's a great question. I think, everything happening in the preseason, it's a short preseason in the season because of the, Champions Cup coming. Whatever happened during those 2.5 weeks of preseason really, I think, will help shape probably the first months of competition, for Bradley Carnell and his staff. A lot of players, I think, are hungry to start and want to come back on the field and have a competition, especially in the Champions Cup, which is a great competition to play. But we had a lot of changes, in this team, and if a lot of fans, come to say, how do you feel about the season? It's pretty much like, I think, the same feelings that I had last year. Like, we don't really know, what to expect because we, had Glesnes, leaving, Kai Wagner in the back line, which is, two big piece of the defense for now a couple of years, and it's going to be interesting to see who is going to be the player replacing them at the beginning and how quick, the back line can be back together with Macania starting, a second season under his belt with an amazing, last year from him, probably one of the best defender center back in the league. he come in the second season. Now people are expecting him to do the same. So hopefully he can learn, as he did last year from some of the little mistake he did and the red card he got, and to be one of the real leader of this team and kind of like carrying another second great year for him. And then you have all the guys who come last year, the Lukic, the Danley, the Hiloski, who kind of surprised a little bit of people, like the Vasilev, nobody knew, but now we kind of know what to expect from them, and we hope they can, raise their level even more to help the team. And now you have, again, the other young player coming in, who could help as well in the midfield. So it's kind of an unknown, for me. I'm excited. There's a lot of game to get played. I'm sure we will see a lot of rotation probably during the beginning of the season, because you don't want to have an early injury. It's very important, especially with the weather right now being so cold here. It's a bit warmer right now where they're in Florida and where they're going to play in Trinidad and Tobago. But it's very important to make sure that we keep a healthy group. And it's a long season, and it's a weird season too. You have, for me, a half season until the World Cup. Then you have the break, and then you have maybe the second part of the season. So could we have a great first half of the season to start, and with a, let's say, a team who now are going to come to Subaru Park, or DC United who's going to play against us with Ty Baribo, who just left as well for them. It's going to be, very different, aspect of how each team is going to look at us, and they know now what style of play, Bradley Cannell like to do when the team play away. So excited, but again, we don't know, because you always need a good start like they did last season.
Are you expecting a lot of rotation change for the first couple of games from Champions Cup play back to MLS and back and forth?
I think you have to. I think you have to, just because of the travel that comes with it, with the time in between games, and that makes it hard to get that rhythm at the start of the season when other teams are coming into a season and just starting their best 11 to try to get points and start to get themselves moving in the season. You're fighting in two competitions, and when you play half the games with one group and half the games with another group, it's hard to get that consistent rhythm that you're looking for to start off your season. Seen a lot of teams struggle at the beginning of the season that are in multiple competitions. So it's extremely important that they have the depth to be able to deal with both. And I think that that's something that you're looking at in preseason and trying to see, okay, who right off the bat, as soon as we start the season, is ready to go, and making sure that those players are sharp and making sure that they understand their roles and responsibilities. I think that's going to be a huge thing into this season is what is your role in this team, and are you okay with it, and do you do it to the best of your ability?
And we all know, and I think a lot of fans watching realize this as well, there's a plan in place. Staff knows that, who are likely going to be the guys that are going to start for CONCACAF Champions Cup play for that leg one matchup, and then who might shift into that first matchup, like you said, in D.C. against Brebo and that newly formed D.C. team with a lot of new pieces there in our nation's capital. So plans in place. We'll see how it goes in the beginning. I remember back, guys, to during the Club World Cup year last year, Seattle with a slow start to begin the year, obviously finished a lot stronger. Same thing with Columbus in a different competition. Same thing with Cincinnati. Then they regrouped. I'm not saying that's going to happen with the Union. Union could hit the ground running like we did last year, going 3-0 to start the year. That win in Orlando, that surprised everybody. But I think you're both right on. We'll have to wait and see how the guys play and what the results will be. You both touched on a couple position players, and I want to get into a little bit of that here. And let's start defensively, because I think a lot of Union fans, and rightfully so, have a lot of questions with the back line, so in front of Blake, and let's start there. So obviously losing a guy in Kai Wagner, all-time assist leader, right? 7 seasons with the club, best 11 player, an all-star. You lose a defender of the year in Jacob Glessis going to LA Galaxy. So you have 2 spots of the back 4 that are gone. The Union bring in Jaffet Siri Larson, was a vice captain for his prior club, a Danish youth international. A lot of experience. I put on some tape, and just from like the play-by-play standpoint, I see that he can, get to take a 15-yard sprint, win a ball towards the flank, can be in possession on the ball, dribble out of space like we saw with McConaughey and Glesnes with a high line. So comfortable on the ball, trying to win a duel or a tackle a little bit further upfield, but then his recovery sprints are good. And rest defense, he's looked good. Obviously, that's taped to me. What's happening in preseason, we'll have to see how that manifests into the regular season. Seba, with the back line, what questions do you have there? And you mentioned McConaughey and how great he did year one of really full-time playing time under Bradley. But what are you expecting out of the back line, and obviously bringing in Harriel, Westfield, and the question at left back?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, losing Glesnes and Carabiner, it's big, for the team. Just not because both of them were a very good player, but you lose two big leaders of this back line. And of course, we have Andre as a goalkeeper, but for me, it's going to be if Andre, like last year, might not play maybe every game, might be managed, he might not be, in a goal. Who is going to be the one or the two guys in the back line who can really, keep people together? Macania, still very young, second year, but he has a bit more, thing in his bed. You talk about, the new signing who has more experience as well, from his career. But then you have Nathan Ariel, who I think is the one who have been here for a long time, need now to maybe take a bigger role in his leadership, his back line. We all know he can play pretty much every position in a back line. He showed it last year. And then you have Frankie Westfield, who second year for him as well, to kind of like confirm what he did last season. So it's going to be interesting to see who is going to become more a leader into this defense, because we all know, and Sheanon, I've talked for you as a defender, but I was too earlier, you need a guy when it doesn't go your way, who you can look at each other and be like, okay, yeah, I got your back. But if you don't have this person who kind of know how to talk when the thing doesn't go well, or can communicate very well when there is a lot of pressure into the back line, it's usually where the team fall and where people point fingers. And we need not to get that this season. We had Glesnes, we have Carabiner, who I think very good with their aura into all the group, but now we need to, let's say, discover who is maybe the next next man up, next guy to can lead this defense. Of course, Andre will be a big part of it when he's in a goal, but you always need like the guys in the defense to do that. So it'll be what I will be looking for this season, to see how they stay together as a back line and not fall apart when maybe when things got a bit tough against some opponents.
For me, my biggest concern is left back. I think that you don't have a natural replacement for Kai, and that's definitely going to be a glaring hole to start the season. I understand that Nate as well as Frankie have gone over to that left side, but I know it from experience that it's just not the same. You don't get the same from that left side, from that attack, from those crosses that you need to really break teams down. So that's really my major concern going into the season, is instead of having a right footer just convert to left back, getting somebody that's naturally left footed, that when they get the ball, they open up onto that left foot. It changes everything. I think from the center back standpoint, I think that the team is going to be okay up the spine, especially with Lukic and Danley in front of those guys. I think they do a great job of protecting those center backs. And if I'm being honest, I think center back is the easiest position to play. So I think that's something that you can get somewhere else. I think Jacob Glesnes has been a huge servant for this club and has had a lot of success. And I think the club felt that it was time to move on and definitely had a plan for that. And I think more so it's what is the plan at left back? And I think that they need to figure something out or get somebody in at left back that's a natural left-footed player to really start the season, or as quickly as possible, in my opinion.
Yeah, the club, as far as depth goes, brings in a guy from Uruguay and Jana Martinez. Also, you have Finn Sundstrom, a younger player coming from North Carolina FC as well. So the coaching staff has decisions to make. Will they bring in a player at left back? We'll have to wait and see. If it is a right-footed player, we've seen that before. Nate Harriel's played that spot. Frankie Westfield has played that spot. There's been some experimentation that I've seen on streams and reading some things as well by the club. It's just like if you have a right-footed guy playing on the left, as you both know better than I do, you need that width, right? Is that guy coming in a little bit more inverted? Who's going to provide that width? And I think that tends to, right, Sheanon, that the partnership that you need on that left side, but the guys
and again,
up top.
You're just not as comfortable on your left foot. It's not the foot that you're dominant with. Even just the angles that you take to give your other defenders covers changes when you go from one side to the other. I think it's just a hard transition, and again, not a gamble that I would want to take going into the season about maybe experimenting about somebody. Again, if they're going in, they definitely have a plan, and they I'm sure know who's going to play left back and have a plan for what they're going to do at that position. But for me, again, that's the glaring hole at this back line is the left back spot.
You both have seen this team so gifted on restarts and set pieces. We mentioned two guys that were stalwarts at that. Kai Wagner with a ton of corners, of course. Glesnes sometimes free kicks, right? Top of the box, 30, 35 yards. Last year we saw Ilaski on set pieces, Indy Vasilev, amongst other players. Obviously, there's going to be some variation with the staff and who they want to utilize. But who do you guys foresee being really crucial on set pieces for the Union in 2026?
I mean, we saw a little bit, I think, Ilowski probably from the preseason, like looking at some of their game. He's the one who take most of them. Like you say, Vasilev with his left foot could give a different type of view on some, inside, free kick with his left. But yeah, Kai Wagner was a big piece and so many assists, during all those years with all the set pieces. So it's going to be interesting to see who is going to be the player who is going to probably need to work a lot on it to deliver some good ball in the box, because I think we have the size, to score some goals on set pieces this year. So I think for me, Ilowski, Vasilev might be the two, and then maybe a player we don't even know now, or a new signing who have some quality in the free kick might step up as well. But probably those two right now, especially you saw Ilowski changing his number for number 10, so he might be like the guy giving some assists this season.
I'll tell you, Ilowski's a guy, Shane, in that the variation for his chance creations, right? Whether it's up the spine, it's in the flank, how he could rip a shot. Just gave the Union, I felt, when he came in from Norgelin and also, of course, San Diego, just a different look into the final third. Did you feel the same last year on the type of chances that he created for the Union, and how well do you feel like he ingratiated into the team last year?
I think his biggest quality for me is being able to create something out of nothing. I think that he's one of the few players in this Union squad that doesn't need a whole bunch of help in the attack, can slither it past somebody, get off a pass or shot. And I think that is the quality that makes him so dangerous, is that elusiveness, that ability to shake free and get that end product that you need, whether it's the cross or the shot. So I think that he's got to continue to do that. He's also got to continue to help bring others into the game. Seba talked about him taking over that number 10 role. That role is not only for goal scoring, it's also for the assists as well. If you look at the 10s around the league, it's a lot of both. A lot of goals being scored and a lot of assists. So that's the role that he's got to occupy. Obviously, he's going to step into a bigger role for this team, being one of their best players and somebody that they're going to rely on heavily to contribute in the goals department.
For a number 10's perspective, you've seen a lot of 10s come and go, both of you, since the beginning over time. What do you think that responsibility is that levied on the shoulders of Ilowski now in this? It's going to be the first full year for the Union from the half a season he had last year.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it earlier. I think for him too, it's kind of like a second year to confirm all the fantastic things he did for San Diego and for the Union when he came in mid-year. It's a little bit more pressure for him. I think good pressure. I think he's ready for it. He's in the edge of his career now. He wants to go to the next level, and he starts with being one of the leaders offensively, kind of getting the ball as a number 10 in the pocket for the Union. We play with two 10s. It's not just one. So he has a lot of freedom, I think, with Barry Carnell to get the ball when he wants, find his position, and at the end of the day, when you're an offensive player like he is, yes, he's very good, to find the ball, turn, maybe go by himself, rip a shot, from 25 yards out, but you need to try to keep working on the connection you want with your pairing or the forward, in front of you. You want to be, on the same page on some movements and stuff like that. So I think it's a great year for him to confirm that, and hopefully he can maybe get a little bit more assist than he had. He had a lot of goals, but we know he can still play as a forward. But I think his number 10 is probably his best position on the left side to come into his right foot and be able to deliver some great opportunity for the forward and for himself as well.
Let me stick with you, Seb, about the forward position. So Bruno Damiani last year one in MLS, scores 7 goals. Love the hold-up play, the physicality he has in the box. Remember one of the goals, the quick turn shot scored. The goal he scored in Chicago as well off of a pressing cue from the Union was just awesome to watch that we saw in the Windy City. So it's going to be year 2 for Bruno. And I always see in MLS, just in my time, it's like, and you guys know better than me, but a guy who starts to really flourish from year 1, takes that leap up, getting acclimated to the United States if he's a foreigner. Also, just more comfortability with his surroundings, living in the Philadelphia area, and also obviously playing here for the Philadelphia Union. So I say all that to say, what do you expect from Bruno in year 2? And then trying to bring along a new guy who's a club record transfer fee And Ezekiel Alado comes in with a big pedigree, a younger player, can bring that verticality. I'm told he has a ton of speed as well. What are you expecting out of that potential partnership, Alado and Damiani?
I mean, it's great to see two different players. I think the Alado is kind of the same type than Ua, in a sense. When we had Baribo and Damiani playing together last year, it was always the same profile. So both, sometimes hold the ball. There's not much run into the space to open, this pocket we want, for the number 10. So hopefully, Damiani in his second year, like you said, is much more acclimated now. Understand what the league is all about, know his teammates as well. His teammates know him. He know how good he is to hold the ball for them. So can we play off him? It's what I would love to see a bit more, this season, to get some, third runner, having the ball play to him, and then maybe it's an Alado, running off him, or it's a Iloski, or it could be, a Denley coming from deep. It's really a player you can see, like, he's going to fight for every ball in the box. He do a lot of dirty work, and I know the players, the fans were like, I didn't score as much in his first year and blah, blah, blah. But all what he does off the ball and the little thing who makes a big difference then for the team to win the ball into the midfield, it's something that I think Bradley Cameron was very happy about him, because even if the goal were not coming, he still played very hard, physically in the box, being a threat every time. And you can see he scored some big goals at the end of the year to win the shield for the team. So I expect him to try to get another second year as well as he finished the first one. And like Iloski, he changed his number. He took number 9, so hopefully it's good luck for him, and they bring him a lot of goal this season. So now I'm looking forward to really see how the partnership can work with Alado and how quick they can be on the same page together, because it's going to be very important to have them playing close to each other and at the same time not making the same run when we have some space behind the defense.
Alado, 8 goals, 32 appearances for his prior club, Seba and Sheanon. When you bring in a new player, let's take it from the goal-scoring mindset, Sheanon, here with like an Alado, as a player that maybe has been around the team. If you put yourself in the Nate Harriel shoes, even as far as Alejandro Bedoya, but a guy that still has responsibility, here's your goal scorer. And what's kind of the messaging do you feel like in the locker room and on the training ground to a guy like Alado, even Stas coming from Union 2 and the great career he had at Penn with Union 2 under Ryan Richter, now getting a first-team contract as well to aid to that depth up front?
Yeah, I think it's important that you bring those guys in and you let them know that they're part of the group right away, and I think that the Union do a great job of that. Everybody that I see around the locker room is always very welcoming and very friendly. And then I think it comes down to what do you do for me on the field. And I think that as a player, when new players came in, we're friends off the field for sure. But again, you're here to help us win. How are you doing that? How are you helping us achieve our goal? Because that's, again, why you bring new players in to get you one step closer to those goals. So it's going to be a tough test for him. Again, we saw Damiani try to transition last year. It's not easy moving into a new league with pressures that come with it in terms of you're looked at right away to start scoring goals. And I don't think that that's a fair expectation. I think there's definitely a period, especially for younger players, that they need to adapt to the league, then they need to adapt and start to grow as a player. And I think that he has a lot of potential, and that's what it is right now, is potential. And we want to see it come to fruition as he's here and as he's a big signing for us. And I think it's something that they feel he can do, and he's now just got to go out and prove it. And the rest of it will take care of itself. When Seba was scoring 10 goals a season, that's my best friend right there. I'll do whatever. So I think goals change everything, and I think that it can change your whole stint very quickly if you hit the ground running. You'll see how the fans flock to you, how confident you feel once those goals are flowing. It's, when your expectation is to score 20 and you get 6, how do you deal with that, and how do you continue to help your team in other ways? We talked about Damiani. While the goal scoring probably not what he wanted, I think from a work ethic standpoint, I think that is exactly what the Union were looking for and why they brought him here. Now he's got to improve, like we talked about, on his own finishing and his own movement in the box. But I think, again, that he'll take that step forward in having that year in MLS under his belt and knowing what to expect from the competition. Some teams play very similarly from year to year, and you'll have that knowledge, and you only grow with it. And again, Seba talked about that partnership. That's going to be something that is very important going into this season. Probably not as much depth at that forward position that we had as last year. So it's going to be on those guys' shoulders to really carry the burden in scoring goals and really creating in the attack.
And look, you said it, the production, like you take a look at the data, and Bruno Damiani, the XG numbers were through the roof last year. Yeah, you might only had 7 goals, and that's what I'm saying. I hope for him it's a springboard in what will come in year 2 for the Union. Just a couple more to close out this preview show, and I think a lot of Union fans are just curious to hear about another year for Kevin Sullivan, right? Goes from 10 minutes his first year getting some time with the first team to over 200 last year. Seba, what are you expecting from Kevin in that process? Maturing as a first-team player with the Union. Of course, there's a plan in place for him. His brother Quinn is aggressively rehabbing that ACL. I'm excited to see Quinn get back. I know how strong he's working in the weight room in his rehab with Brad Papson and the medical team. But let's center here on Kevin, and how do you forecast his 2026 season with the first team?
I mean, it's probably going to be more playing time for him, but again, it's not because it's Cavani and there's a lot of talk, around him, and as a young player, and he has contract with Man City and everything. It's all about what he does, the day-to-day at practice. I think it's all about what he's going to bring, during week to week for the team. And I think if he keep working the same ways and been working, the past year with the first team, he's going to see some minutes. We are going to see, maybe a younger man who is much stronger now because his body changed. He's 16 now. He's still very, very young, but I think he could really have some big impact for the team, coming on the bench, even starting some games this year as well. But he will just be about what he does, I think, a day-to-day basis at practice, and if the coaching staff love his energy and what he can bring as a player for the team, because he probably will play more as a 10 is what I'm thinking. Is his position. He been good and very successful with the second team last season, got some goals and assists, and you need to have him play. When you're a young player, you want to play. Like being on the bench all the time, it's it's nice, but you need to keep playing those games. So that's great. We have a second team who gives that to him, but now it's kind of like for him the next step as well. It's like when he comes in those games and when he has more minutes, could it be a little bit more impactful and play at the levels that everybody's expecting him to play, and be a game changer for this team. So it's a lot of pressure for him as 16-year-old, but yeah, I think we are all excited to see what he could do this season, and if he's going to get a little bit more minutes than he had last year.
Yeah, really well said. I want to close out the preview show lastly, and I mentioned this throughout this fascinating conversation, and that's the logjam of the schedule, right? Champions Cup action, league play. It's a World Cup year, so you both said it. There's going to be like that 2-month break. Then I think you pick right back up with Leagues Cup, and then you go right back into MLS action. Regardless of the order, Sheanon, I'll start with you. Expectations for the Union in 2026 with year 2 under Bradley Carnell, a flurry of new players coming in, but you still feel like the nucleus is there and a lot of starting positions around the field. How do you foresee the year going?
So I think they need to attack the season in small stretches, and I think they did a little bit of that last year and taking it in 4 to 6 game stretches. And I think that if you win those stretches, you find yourself in a good spot at the end of the season, which I think they did a good job of last year. I think that they're going to have to rely on some depth. Obviously, there's a lot of games in a tight window, and I think that depth is going to be really key for them. We talk about younger players coming up. I think that those players need to take a step forward and understand the opportunity that they have in front of them with a club that's willing to go with the youth side of things and willing to put eggs in that basket, whereas some clubs aren't. So I think that it's a huge opportunity for any young player that's in this system right now to really prove themselves and really to step up. I think that there are minutes out there for a ton of people this season, and I hope that those players understand the opportunity that they have. And my expectation for the team this year is for them to be a playoff team. I think that I want to see them playing well at the end of the year. They've won the Supporters' Shield twice for me. That is not the main goal for me. The main goal is to see them go far in the MLS Cup playoffs and hopefully get back to MLS Cup. And I think that it's going to be a grueling season. I think that they have some pieces that are great, and I think they have some work to be done, but that's why it's such a long season, and we'll see where it twists and turns and how it goes.
Well said.
Yeah, I mean, the expectation I don't think is going to be the same than last year. It's so many different things, but can they be successful? 100%. I really, confident in that. But like Sheanon said, it's all about the stretches, all about managing, the group and who is going to play, the minutes, the different type of competition. But at the end, it's for me like the excitement is like Sheanon says, there's a lot of room for whoever want to make an impact on this team, and it could be a young player from the academy system who come from Union 2, just signed. It could be a forward, it could be a midfielder, it could be even a defender. We talk about left back, who knows, So it's going to be interesting to see, at the end of this season, we're going to talk about, and we're like, wow, he was a guy, he was a Frankie Westfield of last season, or he was, the Lukic that we don't expect. We just signed him, and nobody know anything about that player, but he had an amazing season. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see what all those new signings are going to do for the team, and who is going to be the young guys, coming from the academy, or the two guys who is going to help the team big time this season to make it successful. But yeah, MLS Cup, I think it's in the mind of everybody to try to make a run in a playoff. It's a long season with a big break. It's going to be a weird season, but I think we have a great group to be again successful this year.
You're right. There's going to be a lot of start and stop this year, like you said, and I remember talking with the staff a lot last year, taking it maybe in 5 and 10 game stretches, and that's like a season in itself. Then the playoffs, that's a whole nother juncture towards the end of the year, and then throw in the breaks, which we won't talk about right now, but I think everybody knows what I mean watching. So I'm really curious. I'm excited. I think a lot of fans like us, covering the team, will be watching with a close eye. I think you have a lot of core players there, but you also have some new faces, and maybe that insertion of newness brings a little different look to the Union. And I think from a scout perspective will make it challenging for other teams to say, what are the Union going to be in 2026? And Sebastien and I are going to break it down along with the rest of our crew for the entire season. Gentlemen, it's so great to be back with you here on set. Looking forward to seeing you guys on local TV, on our radio broadcast, and all that you do for the club. Thank you so much today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so for Sebastien Le Toux and Sheanon Williams, I'm Dave Leno. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of our 2026 Philadelphia Union season preview.